The world keeps telling you you're just one person. Just another face in the crowd. Just another voice that doesn't matter. But here's the joke they didn't see coming. You're the real deal. Not because you're loud. Not because you're famous. But because the world has already recognized you as something dangerous, a powerful healer. See, energy doesn't lie. And yours. It shifts rooms. It calms storms. It heals things people pretend aren't broken. The funny part. Earth needs you more than you need its approval. Your energy isn't optional. It's essential. So tonight, let's laugh at doubt. Let's smile at fear. Because the biggest joke of all is that you ever thought you were ordinary. They told you you were ordinary. That was the first lie. The kind of lie people repeat. So often it starts sounding like truth. Teacher, bosses, strangers, even that little voice in your own head that whispers, stay small, stay quiet, stay in line. Funny thing is, the world doesn't waste time lying to people who don't matter. Nobody bothers convincing a shadow it's invisible. They only do that when something shines a little too bright. You see, recognition doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it comes disguised as resistance. Side eyes, raised eyebrows, awkward silence when you speak your truth. People shifting in their seats because something about you makes them uncomfortable. That's not rejection. That's detection. The world notices before it understands. It senses before it explains. And long before anyone says it out loud. The energy in the room already knows this one is different. You didn't wake up one day and decide to matter. You didn't file an application to be powerful. It just happened. The way people calm down around you without knowing why. The way pain softens when you listen. The way chaos hesitates just for a second when you walk in. That's not coincidence. That's a signature. The kind that can't be forged. The kind that shows up whether you're ready for it or not. They call it luck when they can't explain it. They call it personality when they're trying to be polite. They call it attitude when they feel threatened. But deep down, under all those labels, there's recognition. The quiet kind. The dangerous kind. The kind that says, this person carries something that can't be controlled. Something that can't be owned. Something that doesn't ask for permission. You felt it, haven't you? That strange pressure of being seen even when no one is looking. That pull toward purpose that won't let you sleep peacefully inside a normal life. You try to blend in, try to dim it down, try to laugh it off like it's all a joke. But the punchline never lands because the truth keeps staring back at you in the mirror, smiling like it knows something you're pretending not to. The world has a funny way of recognizing power. It doesn't roll out a red carpet. It tests you instead, breaks you a little, pushes you into corners just to see what you're made of. Because real power isn't loud. It's resilient. It doesn't announce itself. It survives. And every time you got back up when staying down would have been easier. Every time you chose compassion over cruelty, clarity over chaos, you were confirming what the world already suspected. You're not here by accident. That's the part that scares people. Random is comfortable, ordinary is manageable, but intentional, designed. That makes people nervous, because if you're the real deal, then excuses start falling apart. Then pretending stops working. Then healing becomes possible, and not everyone is ready for that kind of change. So when the world looks at you a little too long, when conversations suddenly get serious around you, when your presence alone shifts the mood, don't misunderstand it as pressure. That's recognition settling in, slowly, uneasily, like laughter right before it turns into silence. Like the moment people realize the joke isn't on you, after all, it's on everything they believed before you walked in and proved, without trying, without begging, without explaining. That ordinary was never part of your design, and never will be as long as you keep breathing, choosing, standing, existing exactly as you are while the world watches, recalculates, and quietly accepts that some forces don't need permission to be real. You ever notice how rooms change before you even open your mouth? That little pause, that flicker in people's eyes. Like the air itself leaned forward and whispered, something's about to happen. That's because your energy talks faster than your words ever could. Long before you explain yourself, long before you defend yourself, something invisible steps into the room wearing your name and announces you've arrived. People think communication is noise, volume, clever sentences stacked on top of each other like cards in a shaky house. But energy is the house. It's the foundation. It's the thing people feel in their gut and can't argue with, no matter how badly they want to. You can lie with your mouth. You can rehearse your smile. You can dress up your intentions. But energy doesn't wear costumes. It walks in exactly as it is and dares everyone to deal with it. That's why some people feel safe around you without knowing why. Their shoulders drop, their breathing slows. They start telling you things they swore they'd never say out loud. And then there are others, the ones who get restless, defensive, irritated for no logical reason. Same energy, different reactions. Because your presence acts like a mirror, and not everyone enjoys seeing what's really standing in front of them. You don't have to announce your strength. You don't need to prove anything. The strongest signal is always the quiet one, the calm in chaos, the stillness that makes noise feel embarrassed. When you walk into confusion without absorbing it, when you sit with pain without trying to escape it, when you listen without needing to dominate, your energy is already speaking in a language older than fear and louder than confidence. Funny thing is, you've probably tried to tone it down, smiled a little less, spoke a little softer, tried to make yourself easier to digest. Because people kept reacting, and reactions can feel like rejection if you don't understand what's really happening. But you were never meant to be background music. Your frequency doesn't fade into wallpaper. It changes the channel. And that kind of power doesn't apologize for being felt. Energy travels faster than intention. That's why people sense you before they trust you. Why animals notice you. Why children stare at you like they're watching something familiar but forgotten. You carry something that doesn't need translation, something ancient, something honest. And honesty is unsettling in a world addicted to masks. You've felt the weight of it. That invisible responsibility that shows up even on days you're tired, even when you're broken, even when you don't feel powerful at all. Because energy doesn't clock out when your confidence does. It keeps moving, keeps influencing, keeps touching lives in ways you'll never fully see. A conversation that hits differently. A moment that calms instead of escalates. A silence that heals more than advice ever could. And here's the part that makes people nervous. You don't have to try. Effortless influence scares systems built on control. Because if energy speaks before permission, then rules start to wobble. Hierarchies get uncomfortable. People who rely on noise to feel important suddenly feel exposed, standing next to someone whose presence alone carries weight. Your energy isn't loud, but it's undeniable. It doesn't shout, it lingers. It wraps itself around moments and leaves fingerprints on outcomes. You could stand in a crowd and still be felt. You could say nothing and still be heard. That's not charisma. That's alignment. That's when who you are on the inside finally stops arguing with who you pretend to be on the outside. And the signal becomes so clear the world can't help but listen. Even when it doesn't like what it's hearing. Even when it pretends not to notice. Even when it laughs nervously and looks away, because deep down it knows that energy, like yours, doesn't ask for attention. It commands awareness, and once it's felt, it can't be unfelt. It keeps echoing, shifting, unsettling, healing, exposing, speaking in ways words never will, long after the room empties, long after the noise fades, long after anyone remembers what was said. Because what was felt keeps moving, keeps spreading, keeps doing its work whether anyone claps or not, whether anyone understands it or not, whether anyone is ready or not. They think healing looks gentle. Soft hands, quiet prayers, a calm smile that never cracks. That's adorable. Healing, real healing, doesn't always arrive wrapped in comfort. Sometimes it shows up laughing at the mess, pointing at the wound, asking the questions everyone else is too afraid to say out loud. Sometimes it hurts before it helps, and that's where your power lies. You don't heal by fixing people. That's the mistake they make when they try to explain you. You heal by being honest in a world that survives on denial, by standing still while others run, by letting pain speak without rushing it into silence. That's not weakness. That's courage dressed like chaos. That's a quiet superpower, because it doesn't need witnesses to work. You've noticed it, haven't you? How people come to you when things fall apart, not when everything's fine. When the mask slips, when the jokes stop landing, when they're tired of pretending they're okay. They don't ask for healing directly. They just linger. They sit a little closer. They talk a little longer. Something in them recognizes that you won't flinch when the truth shows up bleeding. You don't rush to fix. You don't panic at brokenness. You don't need to dominate the moment with solutions. You listen, you stay. You let silence do some of the work, and that drives people crazy because silence forces honesty. It gives thoughts room to echo. It makes emotions trip over themselves. In that space, healing sneaks in quietly, rearranging things without asking permission. Your power is subtle, and that's what makes it dangerous. Loud healing can be ignored. Flashy healing can be questioned. But quiet healing, that gets under the skin. It settles into bones. It changes people slowly enough that they don't notice until one day they're breathing easier, standing straighter, wondering when the weight lifted and why they feel different around you. You don't advertise this gift because you probably don't even call it a gift. To you, it feels normal. It feels like responsibility, like being the one who absorbs the tension in the room, the one who feels everyone else's emotions before your own, the one who walks away exhausted without fully understanding why. That's the cost of carrying something powerful without a manual. They might joke about it, call you intense, say you're too deep, too serious, too much. That's their way of coping with the fact that you see through things they work very hard to hide. Healing energy has a funny sense of humor. It exposes while it repairs. It reveals while it restores. And not everyone wants to be revealed. You've probably tried to shut it off, numb it down. Laugh louder. Care less. Pretend you don't notice the cracks in people's voices or the way their eyes avoid certain truths. But healing doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It waits, patient, persistent, like it knows you'll come back to it eventually, because it's woven into how you exist, not something you can put on or take off. This power doesn't demand credit. It doesn't need applause. Most of the time, the people you help won't even realize what happened. They'll just know that after talking to you, something shifted, something loosened, something stopped hurting as much, and that's enough. Because healing that needs validation isn't healing, it's performance. Your quiet superpower works in the background, in the cracks, in the moments nobody claps for. It works when you choose empathy over ego, presence over distraction, truth over comfort. It works when you stay human in a world obsessed with appearing unbreakable. That's the joke they don't get. The real strength isn't in pretending nothing hurts. It's in sitting with the pain long enough that it gets tired of screaming and starts to soften, starts to make sense. starts to transform, starts to become something lighter, something honest, something that no longer controls the room, something that breathes, something that shifts, something that heals without announcing itself, without fireworks, without noise, without asking for recognition, because it never needed permission to work in the first place. You ever notice how things don't stay the same once you arrive? Like the room had a plan, a script, a neat little routine, and then you walked in and suddenly the rhythm stuttered. Conversations shift, energy tilts. People either lean in or pull away. That's not coincidence. That's impact. The kind that doesn't ask for attention, but gets it anyway. You don't force change. That's the funny part. You don't storm in flipping tables or shouting truths from the rooftops. You just exist. And somehow, existence becomes disruption. Because when someone walks in aligned, honest, awake, the whole environment has to adjust. Pretending stops working as smoothly, masks itch. Old patterns feel outdated standing next to something real. The world is full of systems that depend on autopilot. People saying things they don't mean, doing things they don't feel, following rules they never questioned. It runs fine until someone shows up who doesn't fit the program, someone who listens differently, who responds instead of reacts, who brings presence into places built on distraction. That's when the glitch appears. That's when the shift begins. You felt it. That strange awareness that you don't have to do anything special to change the mood. You sit down and tension softens or sharpens. You speak and the room recalibrates. Even silence around you feels louder, heavier, more intentional. Because your presence carries weight. Not the kind that crushes, but the kind that presses truth to the surface, whether anyone asked for it or not. Some people will thank you for it without saying the words. They'll feel clearer, calmer, more themselves after being around you. Others will resist it, push back, get defensive, act like you've done something wrong when all you did was show up. That reaction isn't about you. It's about what shifts when you're near. Change is uncomfortable, especially for those invested in keeping things exactly as they are. You don't control the shift. You trigger it, like a match in a dark room. You don't decide what people do with the light once it's there. Some will use it to see. Others will curse it for revealing the mess. Either way, the darkness doesn't get to pretend anymore. And that's power most people don't know how to handle. You might wonder why life feels heavier sometimes, why you're drawn into situations where things are already unstable, already on the edge. It's because shift seeks you out. Chaos recognizes order. Confusion recognizes clarity. You're not here to maintain comfort. You're here to alter direction. Even if that direction change starts with discomfort. Even if it starts with things falling apart before they come back together differently. This isn't about being better than anyone else. It's about being different enough to matter. When you show up grounded, aware, unafraid of truth, the world has to respond. Energy adjusts. Outcomes change. Tiny decisions ripple outward. Conversations take turns they wouldn't have taken without you there. Moments land differently. Futures tilt in ways no one can trace back to a single cause. But you'll feel it in your bones that something moved. You don't get applause for this kind of influence. Most of the time, you won't even be invited to stay. Shifts don't always make you popular. They make you necessary and temporary. Once the room changes, once the pattern breaks, once the truth settles in, your job is already done, whether anyone thanks you or not. That's the joke. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be effective, and effectiveness doesn't announce itself. It shows up, alters the atmosphere, rewrites the energy, and walks away while everyone else is still trying to figure out why things don't feel the same anymore. Why old behaviors suddenly feel ridiculous, why silence feels heavier, why truth feels closer why the world around them subtly, undeniably shifted the moment you arrived and refused to be anything less than real, present, awake, unmasked. Because when you show up as you are, the world doesn't stay the same. It can't. It never does. It adjusts, it bends, it moves. It recalculates, and whether people celebrate it or resist it, the shift has already happened, and there's no rewind button once reality has been nudged out of its comfortable illusion. Doubt loves a spotlight. It struts around like it owns the place, asking questions nobody invited, poking holes in things just to watch them wobble. Sounds confident, doesn't it? Real convincing. That's the trick. Doubt survives by pretending it's smart, logical, protective. It tells you it's there to keep you safe, when really it's just terrified of what happens if you actually believe in yourself. Because belief is dangerous. Belief doesn't hesitate. It doesn't overthink. It doesn't ask for permission slips signed by fear and past failures. Belief walks straight into the mess and says, let's see what breaks. Doubt hates that. Doubt needs time, needs excuses, needs you frozen in analysis while life moves on without you. You've heard the jokes doubt tells. Who do you think you are? What if you fail? What if they laugh? What if you're wrong? It laughs first so it doesn't have to cry later. That's the punchline. Doubt is a comedian with stage fright, cracking jokes to hide the fact that it's scared you might actually succeed. Belief doesn't shout back. It doesn't argue point by point. It just acts. Quietly, relentlessly. While doubt is busy rehearsing worst-case scenarios, belief is already halfway there, bleeding a little, learning a lot, getting stronger without announcing it. That's why belief feels risky. You don't get guarantees. You get momentum. The world trains you to trust doubt, calls it realism, maturity, wisdom, as if shrinking your expectations somehow makes you smarter, as if playing small is the same thing as being safe. That's a cute story, but look around. Doubt hasn't saved anyone. It's just kept them busy standing still, congratulating themselves for being cautious while regret quietly builds a home in their chest. Belief, on the other hand, looks a little crazy. It laughs at odds. It smiles at chaos. It says, yeah, this might hurt, and steps forward anyway. That's why belief changes things. Not because it's perfect, but because it's committed. It keeps moving when doubt would rather sit down and feel clever about doing nothing. You don't eliminate doubt. That's another joke. Doubt never leaves completely. It hangs around the edges, waiting for quiet moments, waiting for exhaustion, waiting for you to slip. The mistake is thinking doubt needs to disappear before you act. It doesn't. It just needs to stop being in charge. Belief doesn't mean you're fearless. It means fear doesn't get the final word. It means you hear the doubts, nod politely, and then do the thing anyway. That's power, not the loud, dramatic kind. The steady kind. The kind that builds while nobody's watching. Every time you chose belief over doubt, even in the smallest way, something shifted. A decision made faster, a boundary held firmer, a truth spoken instead of swallowed. Doubt calls those moments reckless. Belief calls them necessary. And funny enough, those are the moments that actually move your life forward, while doubt is still busy making jokes about what could go wrong. Doubt wants you to wait until you're ready. Belief knows you're never ready and goes anyway. Doubt wants proof. Belief creates it. Doubt keeps score of past mistakes. Belief treats them like rehearsal. That's the real punchline. All that time doubt spent warning you, and belief still ends up doing the work. So when doubt starts performing, throwing out its clever lines, its familiar fears, its recycled warnings, don't try to silence it. Let it talk. Let it entertain itself. Just don't let it drive. Because belief isn't loud, but it's relentless. It doesn't need approval. It doesn't need certainty. It just needs you to take one step. Doubt is still laughing at its own joke. One step into the unknown. One step into alignment. One step into the kind of power that only shows up when you stop waiting to feel confident and start moving as if belief already won. Because in the long run, doubt never remembers the punchline. But belief remembers every move you made when you chose action over fear and kept going even when your hands shook and your mind screamed and the world watched, unsure whether to laugh or pay attention. The planet isn't as stable as it pretends to be. It spins, it shakes, it burns, it floods. It breaks things just to see what survives. Earth isn't delicate, it's dramatic. And in the middle of all that chaos, it doesn't just need resources or technology or noise. It needs balance. Frequency. Something that knows how to hold tension without exploding. That's where you come in. People think importance comes with titles, platforms, numbers that look impressive on screens. That's a funny misunderstanding. Earth doesn't respond to resumes. It responds to resonance, to what vibrates naturally, to who can stand in disorder and not add to it. Your frequency isn't about being special. It's about being aligned. And alignment is rare in a world addicted to distraction. You've felt out of place before, like you don't quite fit the rhythm everyone else is dancing to. That's because you're not here to match the noise. You're here to change the tone. When systems go wild, when emotions spike, when people lose their center, your presence acts like a tuning fork. You don't force harmony. You remind it how to return. The earth doesn't shout when it needs something. It signals, subtle shifts, pressure building, patterns repeating. And certain people feel those signals more deeply than others. You notice imbalance in rooms, in conversations, in communities, in yourself. You feel when things are off before they fall apart. That sensitivity isn't a flaw. It's an interface. It's how you connect to something larger than personal ambition. Your frequency calms without numbing, grounds without trapping, awakens without burning everything down. That's not accidental. Extremes are easy. Anyone can escalate. Anyone can destroy. It takes a different kind of power to stabilize, to hold space, to absorb intensity and return clarity instead of chaos. That's the kind of energy Earth can actually use. You might wonder why rest doesn't always feel restful, why crowds drain you, why silence feels necessary instead of boring. It's because you're constantly calibrating, adjusting, responding to signals most people don't register. You're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you're working on a level that doesn't clock hours. The world often rewards loud solutions, quick fixes, explosions that look like progress. But Earth has survived long enough to know better. Real change happens in cycles, not headlines. In consistency, not spectacle. In people who show up steady when everything else is reactive. Your frequency supports life in ways that don't trend, don't monetize, don't make sense to systems built on urgency. You don't need to save the planet. That's another dramatic misunderstanding. You just need to be yourself without distortion, without shrinking, without overcompensating. Every time you choose presence over panic, truth over performance, grounding over ego, you're contributing more than you realize. Frequency spreads. Regulation is contagious. Calm teaches by example. Some people will never understand your role. They'll ask why you care so much, why you notice things they ignore, why you don't just tune it all out and live lighter. But Earth doesn't need more people tuning out. It needs anchors. It needs those who can feel the weight and not drop it, who can stand in intensity and not amplify it. Your energy reminds the system how to breathe, how to slow down, how to remember itself. That's not glamorous work. It's essential. Like gravity, like roots, like the quiet pull that keeps everything from flying apart. You don't see gravity, but remove it and everything collapses. So when you feel the pull to ground, to center, to stabilize instead of chase, trust it. That instinct isn't random. It's responsive. You're part of Earth's feedback loop, part of its attempt to correct, to balance, to heal itself through those capable of holding steady, when everything else is spinning. Through those who don't need to dominate to matter, who don't need to be loud to be effective, who don't need recognition to contribute. Because the planet recognizes frequency before names, energy before status, resonance before words, and yours keeps answering the call every time imbalance rises, every time chaos peaks, every time the system wobbles, every time the Earth looks for something stable enough to lean on without breaking.